Friends, today this afternoon we are with you with a very specific guest, Shri Ajit Kumar ji, to talk to you about the food processing, what is the food technology, what are the education opportunities in this area, how the whole gamut is managed. Shri Ajit Kumar ji is the Vice Chancellor of NIFTIM. NIFTIM, you know, the premier institution of Government of India, National Institute of Food Technology, Entrepreneurship and Management. A deemed university which is engaged in teaching of the food technology, its research, and also to find ways for the entrepreneurship to engage in having our food material safe and long lasted for you in the eventuality when you do not have in the off season that material to be used by the society, and also to curb the prices. So you would see that from his talk that it would have a wider impact on national economy, a wider impact on the large population that live in the countryside, and above all it can save us from that kind of embarrassment that we had gone through say way back in 1967, 66, 67. Friends, you know that we are a country now billion plus. The food requirement is really too high in tonnage. We are happy that the good efforts being made by agriculture scientists, researcher farmers, it has brought about a bumper crop. You must have seen almost every year one of the leading crops takes a toll of about say 50% of its wastage, and the Government of India is aware that how to save that part and have it equitable distribution within the country, store it for the purpose when we need in the eventuality of having not it anymore. Then to prepare the manpower, the technically qualified people, you need a specific institution like NIFTIM. Before I request Shri Kumarji to you, and do not come in between, I feel it essential to introduce you, Shri Ajit Kumarji, so that you appreciate to what level of people that we bring to you to interact with you on very specific topics as on today. Today he will be talking about the status and prospect of food processing sector in India, and there will be various issues. He would be engaged with you for about 30 minutes, and then you can flag off your questions, which I believe he is the right person to reply. Well, Shri Ajit Kumar ji has been a very senior IAS officer, and the passion for food processing and technology has been that much that he retired from that and took as whole time vice chancellorship of NIFTIM. As I told, the NIFTIM is one of the premier institute, and now he is currently the vice chancellor of this institute. I have had the opportunity to know this institution through other fellow colleagues, and I intend to go one of these days. I hope you also find time to look their website when you will be giving the marks. Kumar Sahib has been basically engaged in teaching research, though finally landed in the administrative service, and therefore his passion brought him back to this food technology. He would be talking in a classroom mode, where you can wait for some time, sharpen your question, very short in nature, Don't explain them in detail, because others have to give the have to be given opportunity, and then you will have the reply from each one of them. So, not coming much in between you and your beloved speaker today, I request Sri Ajit Kumar ji to deliver his talk for about 30 minutes and to be with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kim. Thank you very much. Well, good afternoon, friends. I am here with you. I am here with you to share, the concern which the government has, the people have, the farmers have, and which the food processing sector has, about how to make the country more and more economically strong by making the agriculture sector more and more viable, more and more strong, more and more science oriented, and how to draw the young qualified people of the country to agriculture once again. Well, friends, food, as you know, is one of our prime necessities. Without food, none of us can survive. But there was a time when we had become independent in the 1950s and 60s. There was a lot of deficit of food in our country. The amount of food we required at that time for our population, we didn't have that much of food. We had to go around the world with a bowl to request countries to give us more and more food so that we could feed our people. We were dependent on others. But I salute our great scientists, agriculture scientists, the academicians, people like Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, who brought in green revolution in our country for the first time in the 1960s. After the green revolution, as you know, we became fully self-dependent in the country as far as food is concerned. The position now is we are very large, you can say giant producers in the whole world. We produce nearly 650 million tons of food. We are at the third position in the whole world. We produce nearly 50 million tons of fruit and we are first in the world. 85 million tons of vegetable, we are the second in the world. 100 million tons of milk, we are the first in the world in milk production. We are the largest number of, we have number of milk animals. We are the second largest in the number of sheep and goat. And if you look at the spices, since time immemorial, since the history me and you have been reading in our school, that we have been exporters of a spice to the whole world. Nearly 50 varieties of spice that we grow here in the country goes to all over the world even today. Now, this has been happening because of the great hard work of our scientists, our farmers, the governmental efforts, the societal efforts, and all those things taken together. At the same time, we must also realize that we have a huge potential in our country to grow more and more. And that is why I think now we are at the threshold of a second green revolution in which our great agriculture scientists and our academicians are working. And I am sure this second green revolution will also become a reality, will not only remain a dream in near future. This is mainly because, you name any climatic condition of the world, it is there in our country. You name the type of soil which is available in any part of the world is available in our country. You have abundance of water available in our country, and you have large number of hard working people who work in the fields of agriculture to produce food. When we have all these good things in our country, there is a potential for more and more food to grow. And especially if you look at the productivity of various crops which we have even today as compared to our neighbor nations like China or maybe even developing developed countries, we find that there is a huge gap between our productivity of various crops and the productivity of other nations. If you take the productivity of wheat or maize or paddy, the productivity can be improved by a big margin even today. So that is what a second green revolution perhaps would be looking at, and I am sure that would come true one day. Now let's come to the topic of food processing. What is food processing? Whenever the food processing word is mentioned, everybody starts thinking something like, a dibba band khana. food which is packed in a proper dabba, sealed and then sold in the market is food processing. I want to tell you very clearly, my dear friends, food processing is not that. Food processing is much more than that. Anything which you do with food for altering either its shape or size or its taste or its longevity to last longer involves food processing. You know, it can be said that let's say if you in our household, if we take flour and convert it into the bread or the roti which we eat every day, that is food processing. If we take milk and convert it into curd overnight, that is food processing. So food processing has nothing to do only with dibba band khana, but it is something which processes food items like fruits, vegetables, meat, milk, fish, anything into other type of items so that it becomes easier and better to eat, it gives you proper nutrition, and it can last longer. It will not become, you know, rotten the next day itself. For example, if you keep tomatoes, maybe tomato would last maybe for a day or two, but from the third day onwards the tomato starts rotting. You can't keep it. We try to keep it in our refrigerators these days, but you know that also cannot be done for a very indefinite period of time. But if you convert the tomato into, let's say, tomato puree or tomato ketchup, and you add some natural preservatives into it, you can keep it for a longer time. That is what is food processing. Now, the problem in our country has been that although we are giant producers, as I mentioned, we produce so much, although we can grow more also, as I mentioned, but yet we can say safely that we produce so much. But at the same time, if you look at the processing levels, it is very, very low in our country. The overall processing level in our country is only 2% of what we produce, we process. While in developed countries, it is nearly 60% to 80% of the food they produce, they process, and then they can keep it for a longer time. They can produce more variety of eatables to eat. For example, in our country, we have only mainly one variety of cheese produced from milk, that is cottage cheese. While you go to different countries, whether if you go to France, you have 100 varieties of cheese. If you go to Australia, you have another, let's say, 50, 60 variety of cheese. So this is the result of food processing. And on the other hand, we also find, because we are not able to process food, we are wasting a lot of food which we are growing. Growing of food is a huge exercise. You put in a lot of money, you put in a lot of labor, you put in a lot of input, you put in a lot of time, and then the farmer grows that food in the form of either grains or fruit or vegetable, and then if he is not able to preserve it for a longer time, if the food gets wasted, then it's a huge loss not only to the farmer but to the nation also. If I can share statistics with you, it is been calculated that nearly 50,000 crores worth of food material is wasted or gets rotten in our country every year. Huge loss of 50,000 crores to the farmers of our country, to the nation. And this wastage is one area where food processing can come to the rescue of the farmers, to the entrepreneurs, to the industrialists, and to a common man, so that food doesn't get wasted. The food which we have produced is available for people to eat and consume, get nutrition, get energy out of it. You know, I can say, as it is said, you know, that a grain saved is a grain produced. Of course, we need to increase our productivity and all that, but at the same time, parallelly, we must give proper importance to the saving of food from getting wasted. This 50,000 crores worth of million of tons of food which gets wasted every year must be protected from wastage and must be put into the mainstream, made available to the consumers to eat and consume and get energy out of it. Now, you find that in the structure of our food processing sector in the country is such that we have nearly about, we have very large industries, we have smaller industries, we have medium industries, and we have very micro industries at the lowest level. large, medium, small and micro enterprises. You know, another problem which is there in our food processing sector is these small and micro enterprises which are there, which are one man show or two man show in small villages, who produce, you know, various types of pickles, various types of papads, various types of other things, and they sell in the local market, because, you know, they do not have an access to the knowledge for maintaining quality, they do not have access to technology, they do not have access to packaging techniques. So their produce suffers more. If you look at numbers, these small and micro enterprises are, by numbers, they are 69% of the food processing sector, and by volume of production they are nearly 52%. So if there is a huge wastage in this sector, then the whole sector gets affected and the growth of the sector gets, you know, adversely affected. If you look at the present condition of food processing sector in the country, what is the size of the food processing sector? Is it growing enough? Does it have enough potential to grow in future? Does it have enough, you know, in store for the farmers, for young entrepreneurs, for the food chain people who sell food? Does it have these things here so that everybody can become part of the food processing revolution and can prosper? I would say, friends, that we had, as I mentioned in the beginning, a green revolution. Then we also had a white revolution in milk, whereby we became the first in the world to produce the largest quantity of milk. We also had an IT revolution in our country. And now it's the high time, my dear friends, when we should have a food technology revolution in our country, so that we save each grain of food which we produce. If you look at the present size of the food processing sector in the country, it is about 40 billion US dollars. I mean, nearly, you can say, 2 lakh crores of rupees worth is the sector. It is also expected that the sector would grow worth about 60 billion US dollars, that is nearly 3 lakh crores of rupees in next 7 to 8 years. Now, if you look at the data for, you know, regarding the growth of the sector, if you look at the last 3 quarters of growth of various sectors of our economy in our country, various manufacturing sectors, you will find, while the food processing sector has been growing consistently at about 15, 16, 14% or so in that range, all other manufacturing sectors have been growing at 3%, 4%, 5%, 2% or so. So even in the, you know, times of difficulty, economic difficulties like economic downturn in the whole world affecting our economy to a certain extent, when other manufacturing sectors have come down to low level of growth, this food processing sector has been consistently growing at about 14-15% per annum. And this manufacturing GDP growth is being maintained very nicely. And I would say, if we remove the bottlenecks which are there in the growth of the sector, this will become faster and faster, the growth would become much bigger. You may wonder as to, you know, what are the drivers of this growth of the sector? What drives this growth? Why is the food processing sector growing so fast while the other sectors are not growing so fast? You know, there are various drivers of the sector. One is, as you would recall, you know, in the earlier days when we were small children, then even then, there was a sort of a desire to preserve one's food and not allow it to get wasted. In our days, I had seen, might be you also would have seen your grandmother or mother drying cauliflower and keeping it for the whole year so that it doesn't get wasted, and you can eat cauliflower vegetable throughout the year, whether it is season of cauliflower or not. This, you know, I would say innate desire of human being to preserve things, innate desire of human being to preserve the food on which it grows, from which it draws its life, has always been there. When the scientific thinking is growing in our country, when the scientific bent of mind is growing in our not only students, scientists, academia, in our educated people, when the scientific thinking is also growing slowly in our farmers, in our industry, which are either small or medium or large, they also are thinking more and more for preserving food. They are also thinking more and more of devising ways as means, devising methods, devising technologies to save food. This innate sort of desire to preserve food is one of the main drivers of growth of this sector. The second driver of growth is, there was a time when ladies used to hardly work. They were mostly at home cooking food for all of us. But with the growth of education, more and more girls going to the education, getting educated, taking up careers in various sectors, and they are now in almost all sectors. They are competing equally with the men. So when more and more female starts working, then the possibility of the female sitting at home all day and cooking becomes difficult. It becomes a little remote. Then what you look at? Then you are trying to look at those sort of eating materials or eating ingredients which can be easily cooked or which can be easily packet opened and eaten, which is called easy to cook or ready to eat food. So this also has given an impetus, because the lady of the house, the housewife, wants that yes, when she comes back from office, she should have vegetable properly cut and packed in a thing. She just opens the packet, cooks the vegetable and gives it to the family to eat. She doesn't waste time washing the vegetable, cutting it and then keeping it and then cooking it. So this has been a major thrust for the food processing sector to grow. The third has been the growing income in our country. I can share the data with you that the way the income level has gone up, and especially the youngsters, the younger generation, the population between 18 to 35, which is nearly 52% in our population today, is earning good. They want to eat better. They want to enjoy their time. So they also are looking for quick to eat, quick to cook food, which ultimately gives rise to the demand in this sector. That is the third thing. And the fourth and final thing is the availability of such food easily to the consumers. The availability of such food in a shape and size and in a packaging which ensures quality, hygiene. Like earlier we were ready to drink water from any tap which is there on the roadside, but these days all of us look for a bottled water which is sealed, which has the guarantee there on the bottle that yes, this water is hygienic and good. So the consumers' liking or preference for quality food, the young consumers who are educated, very well educated, very well informed in this era of IT and internet, their demand for hygienic food, better food, easy to eat food or easy to cook food has also given a push to the sector. Now you may sort of be thinking as to, okay, this sector is there, it has a huge size now, it is supposed to grow, and is it supposed to grow enough, or is the growth impeded, or is the growth getting obstructed? Of course, the food processing sector's growth is getting obstructed due to very many reasons. The first reason is lack of infrastructure. Imagine I had seen the road, was traveling once from in erstwhile Bihar, from Ranchi to Jamshedpur by car, and I found the road ahead totally full with slushy red material. It looked as if there was a lot of blood on the road. On inquiry, I was told these are tomatoes which were thrown by the farmers on the road, which have got crushed under the wheels of vehicles passing by, and it has got converted into a slush. The farmers, it was tomato season, could not get proper price, could not get enough money to even take it back to their village or their house and they had to throw it on the road. Similar situation exists in many parts of the country in the proper season when the availability of such food, fruit or vegetable is very high. The whole price structure goes crashing down, the farmer doesn't get enough and he has to throw. This happens almost every year with some crop or the other. Now imagine if there was an infrastructure available at the farmer's doorstep, at the farm door in the village, where he can keep his produce for some time so that the produce doesn't start rotting, and he could sell it after this, the crash of prices, the season has been over, the prices have picked up, and then he could sell it. Then this loss to the farmer is not there. He gets a better price, and the loss to the nation in the form of this wastage is not there. Unfortunately, we have had the lack of such infrastructure of proper storage of such perishable commodities, especially like fruits and vegetables. We had not even heard of controlled atmosphere storage earlier in our country. Now we are pushing this whole scheme of controlled atmosphere storage to be established all over the country in the form of integrated cold chain. The government is pushing it very hard so that we have a chain of such storages all over the country, and the farmer doesn't face the same problem. His produce doesn't get rotten. This is one sort of example. Similarly, in infrastructure, for example, how do you take your produce from one place to another? How do you transport them? You have to transport apples, you have to transport it in a proper condition, proper temperature condition. Otherwise, if you transport it in a normal truck, the apple starts suffering, as it happens today. By the time the apples from Himachal reach Delhi Azadpur Mandi, about 25-30% of the apple would have got rotten. If we could have a fleet of refrigerated vans in the country available, easily accessible to the farmers, the situation would change. There is another infrastructure which is not available in our country, or it is available in a very minuscule quantity as compared to the demand. Similarly, infrastructure like collection centers, distribution centers, where you can store your surplus commodity, surplus fruit or vegetable in thousands of tons. The infrastructure of primary processing center in the village, where the farmer can bring his produce, clean it, grade it, sort it, and then keep it in the controlled atmosphere storage which is available in the village for some time. If he wants to store it for longer time, he takes to the collection center, which is a larger center at a distance, keeps it for a longer time, maybe for a year. This is what happens in developed countries, and that's how they save their food. They don't waste even 1% of their produce, while we waste so much. So this is another infrastructure gap which we have. Similarly, all along the supply chain, right from the farmer's field to the consumer's table, or when the consumer starts consuming the food, there are a lot of inefficiencies in the whole supply chain system. The way the farmer is exploited by the middleman, the farmer gets 2 rupees a kilo for his potato, while you get in the market at 20 rupees a kilo as a consumer. This 18 rupees goes into the inefficiency of the supply chain. All these issues create a problem. If we can remove the inefficiencies at each point of the supply chain, we will be able to improve farmers' income. We will be able to stop wastage of so much of quantity of food, and our farmers in the country, our people in the country will feel better, will feel happier, and their younger generations will not run away from agriculture. Similarly, access to technology is another issue which is hampering the growth of the sector. The technology to store things. As I said, control atmosphere storage, where you can control the inflow of gases like nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide. You can control temperature. In one storage you can have different chambers where you can have different temperatures of in one chamber, different temperature in another chamber. You can have different gas concentration in one chamber, different concentration in another chamber. You can store potato in one, you can store apple in the other one. All such technologies which are coming to our country now slowly have been a bottleneck for the growth of the whole sector. Similarly, lack of genuine technical advice. If an entrepreneur wants to put in a, let's say, a food processing unit, getting a genuine technical advice in the country also has been, a big issue. People have been fleeced, people have been misdirected for various reasons. So there needs to be a center where people go and get genuine advice. This also has been another bottleneck. Then lack of awareness. The farmer doesn't know what is food processing. For example, if you tell the potato farmer that today what you do, when you take out your potato, you put it in sacks, आप बोरे में भर के ले जाके उसको मंडी में डंप कराते हो, बेच देते हो. ये आपका अड़तिया आपके गांव से ही खरीद के बोरे में भर के ले जाता है, मंडी में बेच देता है. You get, let's say, 2 rupees per kg as your return. But suppose if we can tell the farmer कि अपने फील्ड में ही इसको अलग अलग साइज़ के लिए सॉर्ट आउट कर लीजिए, थोड़ा साफ़ कर लीजिए. You keep smallest size in one dump, medium size and bigger size in the third dump. Clean them up properly, take them separately to the market. You will get maybe 1.5 rupees per kg for the smallest one, maybe 2.5 rupees per kg for the middle one, and for the largest size you may get 4 rupees per kg. So if you average out the cost, the farmer gains. So these are small operations which the farmer has to be made aware of, wherein he will gain. He will know what is value addition. He knows that if I do this, I add so much of value to my produce and then I take it to the market, I get more. Similarly, lack of machinery manufacturers. For food processing sector, a processing line for fruit, a good processing line for, let's say, meat or let's say fish, is difficult to get. There are hardly very, very few producers in the country, machinery manufacturers, which I can count on my fingertips, which are available in the country, while there need to be many more.
Kumar Sahib, it has been wonderful. Now I hear that there is a call from Madurai. They were so excited they couldn't hold and they have come on the line.
Okay.
I request you to let them come on the line and have the question.
Sure.
Yes.
Yes. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
How safe are the preservatives used in infant foods and children foods?
Okay.
And my second question is,
Okay.
Yeah.
adding too much of salt to preserve the food leads to any health problems?
Well, I'll respond to your second question first. Although I'm not an expert doctor who can tell you this, but normally what is heard is that salt is required by the body in a particular quantity, in a particular amount. If you eat more, as doctors keep saying, that it may lead to higher blood pressure, maybe many more things. So that has to be kept under a limit. Number two, adding any chemical preservative without any research whether it is safe or not is not correct. Any preservative which is added either to baby food or any kind of food has to be researched first, has to be, diet study has to be done by, when you add these preservatives to one food or the other, give it to some type of people and then see the reactions. And it is always better to add natural preservatives. But of course, natural preservatives are not available everywhere for all types of food. So sometimes you may have to add chemical preservative, but it has to be added with lot of caution, lot of research, lot of care.
You see, I totally agree with Ajit Kumar ji, but then we have to underline the fact that the food preservation when it is being done of a particular kind of variety or item, say if it is say fruits, they are to be preserved. If they are to be then preserved, then a qualified doctor in the laboratory of the food processing laboratory would calculate as to what is the minimum preservative that is allowed in a particular item of which is being stored or kept. Not beyond that, and is mandatory on the to bring that fact on the body of the container, that is on the bottle itself or the pack or whatever kind of package it is, that the preservative is such and such an amount has been added, then its expiry goes up to this level. Even the right dosage of preservator kept for a long time and not utilize that may create some kind of harmful effect. So, it is not the one that was to decide, it is at the time of the food is being preserved that the amount of preservator is to be decided, and it is rather decided by international body. It is not that each one of us is doing our own research on preservation. So, the items that we are going to preserve here are already being preserved in other countries. Let us take that help also. So, that preservative body or organ or agency or factory will take all these things into cognizance and then decide the quantum of or amount of preservatives. And let us not decide ourselves. Let we be guided by the prescription that is written on the preserved item.
Yeah, I mean, I am very in agreement with you, Dr. Kemp, but I would only like to flag two issues. One, there is a Codex Alimentarius Commission, an international body which decides about the quality issues, quality parameters for the whole world. But of course, for each type of climate and eating habits,
it differs. Yeah.
Things will differ. Maybe for climatic condition in Britain, the preservative of a particular kind may be of a little higher level, while in our country it may be of a lower level because of the climatic conditions and the way that we eat food. But the basic crux of the problem is that the consumer today must start demanding quality food. Excuse me. The consumer must look at the packaging or the bottle of the food and see what are the ingredients, which is as per law, as per the food safety law now, it is mandatory that everything should be written. If there is any chemical preservative, it has also to be written. It is to be mentioned that this is the prescribed as per law, this is the maximum amount, and that's why which is within that. It is also should be written as to what is the maximum life of that food which is kept in that packaging or that bottle. Beyond that, it neither can be sold nor can be consumed.
Good.
Yeah.
So, any question coming in? Then in the meantime, as people say that the saving is the earning, it's a very important saying that we know for sure that the saving is the earning. As much you save, that would add to your earning. Same is in the production. Whether it is a grain, whether it is a fruit, vegetables, as the Honorable Speaker told that we are leading producer in milk products, the spices and the vegetables and so on. So, if we are growing that at number one in the world, it becomes all the more necessary for us to save it, to preserve it.
That's right.
For the eventuality, because we have a different kind of distinct seasons, a rainy season, what you call winter season, the summer season, and in between also the spring and others. So, the particular variety of crop grow in a particular season, and for the rest of the time it is to be preserved, it is to be stored, it is to be taken care of, so that in the area where it is not grown, it is sent in the eventuality that is being asked for, or the price could be controlled in the market in the absence of the particular thing is now not coming in on the field and eventually in the market. So, that same product would come from the storage and your price would be controlled. So, it is a chain reaction. For the whole national economy, it is necessary that whatever we produce, we save that, we preserve that. Beyond our consumption, we must have that. In the small farmers that we all come from the area where we have seen in the village, each farmer has the crop harvested, then he fills in the gunny bag and doesn't have the other places to store it. But he forgets that in the same gunny bag that he has stored his grain, he had stored last year also the same product in that. And the insect egg and insect at various stages of survival is already existing in that.
True.
Therefore, when he fills with the new product, then the infestation takes place right from the gunny bag. So it takes little time to treat that, to put it in such a heat that the egg would die or larva would die, or treat it with some limited quantity of insecticide or pesticide based on the recommendation given by the agriculture. The small thing that can help preserve our hard-earned production and product in the eventuality of when it is off season. To you, Kumar Sahab, I was wondering that you have now NIFTIM. It's a very good arrangement by government, and I must congratulate you for having put a very good show. It has become, in a limited time of span, a very important organization and a lot of hope, therefore. Are you having some plan in near future to have the replica of this institute or the campuses? Because catering to the need of the country from one place, I believe would be very difficult. What are your plans?
Certainly. First, if you allow me to tell in brief what NIFTIM is.
Yes.
NIFTIM, as Dr. Kem had said in the beginning, stands for National Institute of Food Technology, Entrepreneurship and Management. For food processing sector and food technology, there have been few institutions in the country which have been running from the last 4 or 5 decades. They have done a wonderful job, they have done commendable work, but somehow there was a need felt for an umbrella apex organization which could take care of all the needs of the sector, whether it is research, whether it is academia, whether it is developing new product, developing new technology, whether it is skill development, whether it is industry upgradation. Anything which the sector needs could be taken care of by one organization. That is why the Ministry of Food Processing Industries established this organization called NIFTIM as a deemed to be university. Now it has mainly 5 functions. One.
Kumar sir, may I take one more call coming from?
Sure. Please.
From where?
Hello.
Uttar Pradesh. And yes, Uttar Pradesh. What is the name of the person who is putting the question?
Sir, Salim.
Salim, please go ahead with your question.
Sir, I have one question. What is the difference between traditional and modern food processing?
What is the
difference between traditional food processing and modern food processing?
Okay.
Modern food processing.
Acha.
Okay.
You see, before I request for a very specific scientific question from the experts, let me tell you, we all know for sure that when we used to keep our grains, say particularly wheat, we used to mix the neem leaves in it. And then time to time, when after the rain, then we will show the sun to these stored grains so that some light comes in and excess light kills the infestation. So that is a traditional way of doing it. But if the same product is being preserved or being taken care of by some limited dose of fumigants or some insecticide, that could perhaps be. Yet I'll depend more on our experts. Yes, Mr. Kumarji.
Salim, there is lot of indigenous practice and indigenous knowledge in the country for preservation of food. Like I said in the beginning in my talk that when my grandmother used to dry cauliflower and keep it for the whole year.
Yeah,
it was a way of preserving food. Similarly, today the cauliflower can be cut, irradiated and kept for maybe even 1 year, and can be available to the housewives in a packed condition for being cooked immediately and eating. So the new technologies have come in, new scientific instruments have come in, new scientific ways have come in where the preservation of food has become much more easy and it can be done on larger scale. Earlier each household was doing things on his or her own, but now when you do things on a larger scale in a scientific manner, you are also ensuring the quality of that food when it is going to be eaten after 1 year or so. You are also ensuring proper packaging, you are also ensuring proper nutrients which are there in that food do not go waste. So it's perhaps better to have a scientific way of preservation of food. Thank you.
So, Kumar Sahib, you were telling us that it's the overarching body for food processing and technology and so on and so forth. So, what are your plans to have more such kind of institution throughout the country?
You know, let me just add about the functions of NIFTM. One I said is academics, that is running BTech, MTech and PhD courses. And let me tell you, our courses are not BTech in food technology. Our courses are BTech food technology and management.
Very good.
It has a blend of technology and management both. So that when the child studies this BTech, he is a manager as well as an engineer in one. So that's a great advantage which any person will have in the present job market. Second is the job of research for the food processing sector, which NIFTM will have to do. All kinds of frontier area research, taking up the problems of the industry, taking up the problems of the farmers, finding out solutions and giving back to them is the research agenda of NIFTM. Third is the agenda of skill development in a big way for the food processing sector. In the whole country, a campaign is to be run for a skill development of nearly 35 lakh people in next 10 years by NIFTM as an apex organization. Fourth is to take up the upgradation of small and micro enterprises, which are more than 5 million in number in the whole country. Their numbers are not even firmed up because there are so many in so many villages, towns, that getting their numbers finally firmed up also is difficult. So for upgrading them and bringing them to the mainstream of technology, science and all is another main challenge which NIFTM has. And finally, awareness creation and entrepreneurship development are two main areas which NIFTM will pursue. Creating awareness among progressive farmers as to how you can add value to your produce, how you can join food processing, how you can establish your own food processing industry in your village. This is one way of creating awareness. And then creating entrepreneurs out of students. Our motto in BTech, MTech program is, we will request or we will advise the students not to become job seekers, but to become job givers by establishing small units here and there. This is what NIFTM's mandate is. And of course, as Dr. Kem has asked me, we have a plan to establish campuses in about 12 places in the 12th plan, which is under consideration of the government all over the country.
Good. Kumar Sahib, you mentioned briefly about the training program being launched by NIFTM to ensure that as many as possible the number of people should be aware of the food processing technology. Now, do you have any annual short-term program of which you would like to talk to our audience, so that if they feel the necessity of being trained or wish to have the training at their own spot with the help of NIFTM, is there any provision of that kind?
Again from Salim.
Yes, Salim.
Salim, you had put your question, I believe.
सर मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि जो गवर्नमेंट कोल्ड स्टोरेज के लिए सब्सिडी देती है,
हाँ,
उसका प्रोसेस क्या, कैसे मिलेगी मुझे सब्सिडी? हो मैं कोल्ड स्टोरेज खोलना चाहता हूँ.
अच्छा, जो प्रिजर्वेशन के लिए सब्सिडी मिलती है सरकार से?
जी सर.
हाँ,
तो उसके लिए मुझे कहाँ जाना होगा सर? मैं गांव में रहता हूँ, वहाँ से मुझे कोल्ड स्टोरेज का प्लांट के मैं खोलना चाहता हूँ, बेरोजगार हूँ सर मैं.
अच्छा, ठीक है. कुमार साहब,
देखिए सलीम, मैं आपको एक बात ये बताना चाहता हूँ कि कोल्ड प्रिजर्वेशन के दो तरीके हैं. एक तो सिंपल कोल्ड स्टोरेज है जो पहले से भी बना करते थे, अब भी बनते हैं, जहाँ पे आप पूरे कोल्ड स्टोरेज में सिर्फ एक ही चीज़ रख सकते हैं, क्योंकि उसका टेम्परेचर आप एक जगह ही कंट्रोल करते हैं. उसमें गैस कंट्रोल नहीं कर सकते आप, जो भी आपने उसमें रखा है उसके पकने की जो रेट है उसको कम किया जा सके. उसके लिए जो हमारा नेशनल हॉर्टिकल्चर बोर्ड है भारत सरकार का, उसके ऑफिसेज हैं आपके राज्य सरकार के कैपिटल राजधानी में, उनकी आप वेबसाइट है, आप उस पर जाके देख सकते हैं, उनको पत्र लिख सकते हैं. इसके अलावा जो एक मैंने कहा था अपने टॉक में, कंट्रोल्ड एटमॉस्फेयर स्टोरेज, उसमें आप उस जो स्टोरेज का भंडार क्रिएट करते हैं उसमें आप टेम्परेचर भी कंट्रोल करते हैं, गैस भी कंट्रोल करते हैं, और जिससे कि जो सामान आप रखते हैं वो ज़्यादा दिन तक ताज़ा रहता है, जल्दी सड़ता गलता नहीं है. इसके लिए भारत सरकार की जो हमारी फूड प्रोसेसिंग मिनिस्ट्री है वो सब्सिडी देती है. आप फूड प्रोसेसिंग मिनिस्ट्री के वेबसाइट पे देख सकते हैं, या आप फूड प्रोसेसिंग मिनिस्ट्री को आप नोट कर लीजिए, आप पत्र भेज सकते हैं, आप चाहें तो पता नोट कर लें. मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ फूड प्रोसेसिंग इंडस्ट्रीज़, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया, पंचशील भवन, अगस्त क्रांति मार्ग, न्यू दिल्ली। इतना लिख के आप भेज देंगे तो आपको उस पर जवाब जाएगा कि आगे आपको उसमें क्या करना है।
ठीक है। तो और कोई क्वेश्चन जो बीच में है इससे पहले कि हम दूसरी बातचीत शुरू करें? मैं कुमार साहब इंटरेस्टेड था ट्रेनिंग एस्पेक्ट्स में, कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग में।
जी।
तो उसके परिप्रेक्ष्य में क्या क्या चीज़ें हो रही हैं जो कि हमारे लोग जानना चाहेंगे? या तो वो ट्रेन हो आपके यहाँ आकर, या कोई ऐसी फैसिलिटी जो कि तालुका, डिस्ट्रिक्ट या किसी ऐसे लेवल पे बन रही हो तो उसका वो फ़ायदा उठा सकते हो?
देखिए, अभी हम लोगों ने ट्रेनिंग को 2 स्तर पे 2 तरीके से प्लान किया है। पहले तो हम लोगों ने प्लान किया, जिसकी शुरुआत भी हम लोगों ने पिछले साल ही कर दी थी, वो जो लोग इंडस्ट्री में, फूड प्रोसेसिंग इंडस्ट्री में ऑलरेडी काम कर रहे हैं, उनके लिए शॉर्ट टर्म ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम हम निफ्टम के कैंपस में ही चलाते हैं। हर महीने हम 2 प्रोग्राम इस तरह का करते हैं। जैसे काफ़ी बार हम लोगों ने फूड क्वालिटी पे प्रोग्राम की, फूड सेफ्टी पे की, कोल्ड चेन मैनेजमेंट पे की, वगैरह वगैरह। इसके अलावा भविष्य में जो हम प्रोग्राम करेंगे वो किसानों के लिए भी हम प्लान कर रहे हैं, उद्यमियों के लिए प्लान कर रहे हैं, और हम ये प्लान कर रहे हैं कि जहाँ जहाँ या तो फूड प्रोसेसिंग क्लस्टर हैं, या जहाँ जहाँ जिस राज्य में अच्छी पैदावार होती है फलों की, सब्जियों की, जहाँ की फूड प्रोसेसिंग इंडस्ट्री लगाई जा सकती हैं, वहाँ हम अपनी टीम भेज करके वहाँ ट्रेनिंग की व्यवस्था करके उनको वहाँ ट्रेनिंग दे सकेंगे। और भविष्य में एक दिन की अवेयरनेस प्रोग्राम बहुत बड़े पैमाने पर पूरे देश में शुरू करेंगे, जिसमें लोगों को फूड प्रोसेसिंग के बारे में, अपने उपज को कैसे हम उसमें उसकी कीमत और बढ़ाएं, उसको कैसे वैल्यू एडिशन करें, कैसे हम उसको बचा के रखें जिससे वो सड़े गले नहीं, इसके लिए हम भविष्य में काफ़ी बड़े पैमाने पर ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम प्लान कर रहे हैं।
Niftm is having any provision to disseminate this kind of education through ICT?
We have a provision. We have not yet worked out in detail, but of course we would like to do that because it can reach more number of people through ICT, and we would love to do that. And maybe we can join hands with you people and do this.
Most welcome. Yes. Yeah, this is a very pertinent question because ICT now will take us to as many people as we can think of.
Correct.
So the another thing that comes to my mind is is there any, these days many organizations are working from various angles, whereas we talk about the food preservation using permissible limit of pesticide or insecticide or what you call bioagents. The other group, like Amir, I heard other day on the pesticide residual effect in the foods, and such a scaring kind of demonstration it was. Now these two things do not go hand in hand well together. One says, well, keep away, another we say that there is a permissible limit that we can use. How to strike a balance between these two things, because ultimately both are heard and reacted by the public at large?
I would say let us not put anything in the public domain unless and until it has been scientifically tested. क्योंकि हम अगर काफ़ी चीज़ें पब्लिक के बीच में ऐसी कहना शुरू कर देंगे जिसका कोई वैज्ञानिक आधार नहीं है, तो पब्लिक में भ्रांतियाँ फैलेंगी, पब्लिक में डर हो जाएगा, पब्लिक में जो चीज़ें अच्छी तरह से सही समय पर पहुंच पाती हैं, अच्छी क्वालिटी का खाना पहुंच पाता है, वो नहीं पहुंचेगा, लोग अच्छे खाने से भी भागना शुरू कर देंगे। तो पब्लिक में भ्रांतियाँ फैलाने से ज़रूरी है कि हम पहले जो भी बात हमें सामने हमारे आती है कि भाई ये चीज़ अच्छी है या गलत है, इससे कोई हानि होगी या नहीं होगी, हम उसकी साइंटिफिक या वैज्ञानिक जांच अच्छी तरह कर लें और तब उस रिज़ल्ट को हम पब्लिक के सामने रखें कि देखिए हमने इस खाने में इतना ये प्रिजर्वेटिव मिलाया, उसका ये असर हुआ, उसका लेवल हमने हाई किया तो ये असर हुआ, यहाँ पहुँच गया तो थोड़ा हानिकारक हुआ। तो हर चीज़ में बॉडी जो हमारी है ना, हमारा जो शरीर है वो एक ऐसा इंजन खुद ही है कि बहुत चीज़ों को खुद ही साइकिल करता है और उसको उससे अपना बचाव कर लेता है। तो चूँकि हम खाने के बारे में बात करते हैं तो खाने की अच्छी चीज़ वो है कि हमें उससे शक्ति मिलती है, हमें शक्ति मिले लेकिन हमें नुकसान न हो, वो वैज्ञानिक आधार अगर हम एक बना लें खाने का तब लोगों तक पहुंचाएं, तब शायद ज़्यादा अच्छा होगा।
मैं बिल्कुल सहमत हूँ आपकी बात से, क्योंकि अगर डॉक्टर भी कोई दवाई देता है वो तो प्रिस्क्राइब करता है, वो कहता है कि आपने एक टैबलेट सुबह लेनी है, वो भी खाने के बाद, और फिर एक बीच में लेनी है दोपहर को, खाने से पहले या बाद, एक शाम को लेनी। लेकिन अगर कोई ऐसा इंसान है चाहता है कि उसकी बीमारी बहुत जल्दी ठीक हो जाए और वो दो टैबलेट लेना शुरू कर दे, वो भी बगैर खाने के, तो वो उसका क्या हश्र होगा? उसका हश्र ये होगा कि उसका नुकसान होगा। यही सही तरीके से कुमार साहब ने समझाया है कि हर चीज़ की एक लिमिट होती है जो कि बड़े शोध कार्य के बाद डिसाइडेड की जाती है कि भाई इतना इसमें परमिसिबल लिमिट है जो कि हम इंसेक्टिसाइड या प्रिजर्वेटिव्स या कोई ऐसे प्रोटेक्टिव मेजर्स कर सकते हैं। तो अगर हम उसको फॉलो करेंगे तो बात ठीक रहेगी, नहीं तो फिर उसी तरह की भ्रांति फैलेगी कि हम ना तो उसको प्रिजर्व कर पाएंगे और ना उसको रख पाएंगे। जब प्रिजर्व नहीं कर पाएंगे तो उसको रख नहीं पाएंगे, फिर भूखों मरेंगे। वही हाल हमारा वहाँ का होगा। तो जो भी चीज़ें बताई गई हैं वो किसी साइंस या शोध के परिणाम स्वरूप बताई गई हैं, उसका पहले आप विवरण से बड़ा धीरे से कूलली उसको देखें कि इसमें क्या लिखा है, कितनी डोज लेनी है, चाहे वो आपके अपनी बीमारी को भगाने की हो या आपके फल फ्रूट या अनाज पे लगी बीमारी को भगाने के लिए हो।
बिल्कुल,
उससे ज़्यादा हो जाएगी तो नुकसान है, नहीं खाएंगे तो भी नुकसान है। वैसे कुमार साहब, मैं समझता हूँ कि हमने एक लीक से हटके जो ये वक्तव्य आपसे कराया है, मैं लीक से हटके इसलिए कह रहा हूँ कि सब्जेक्ट मैटर जो एक चीज़ होती है, हम कहते हैं कि एग्रीकल्चर का बॉटनी पढ़ाइए, अल्टीमेटली उसका पर्पज़ क्या है? उसका पर्पज़ ये है कि हम बॉटनी पढ़ें, बच्चे फिर जाने कि क्रॉप कैसे उगाई जाती है और उसमें बीज कैसे बनता है, उसको रखा कैसे जाता है। जब तक आप ये नहीं जानेंगे कि जो आपकी इनकम है उसको कैसे सुरक्षित रखा जाए, किस बैंक में रखा जाए, ठीक उसी तरह जो आप नहीं ये जानेंगे कि जो अनाज है, आपके फ्रूट है, आपका जो दूध है या जो दूध से बनी हुई और चीज़ें हैं, उनको कैसे सेफ रखा जाए, तब तक उसको उगाने का भी कोई खास औचित्य बनता नहीं है। तो आप आए हमारे सारे जो व्यूअर्स हैं उनसे बातचीत की और मैं समझता हूँ कि आपके पास अब बहुत क्वेश्चंस भी आएंगे। हमें आप माफ़ करना अगर वो आपको ज़्यादा तक्लीफ देते हैं, आप उनका एक वेबसाइट या कोई हेल्पलाइन कुछ ऐसी डेवलप कराएं। क्योंकि मैं समझता हूँ कि इसमें हज़ारों श्रोता अपने क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछ पाए हैं और वो
निफ्टम की वेबसाइट है, मैं आपको बता दूं, niftam.ac.in, niftam.ac.in। श्रोता चाहें तो नोट कर लें और अपने जो भी आपकी क्वेरीज हो आप इस वेबसाइट पे भेजें, हम आपके उसके शंकाओं का समाधान करने की कोशिश करेंगे।
आप सीईसी को भी भेज सकते हैं, हम फिर इन्हीं को तकलीफ देंगे। आपका जाना पिछाना वेबसाइट है, टोल फ्री टेलीफोन नंबर है, और फिर हम कुमार साहब को बुलाएंगे। ऐसी हम उम्मीद रखते हैं आप यहाँ फिर पे आएंगे। धन्यवाद।
थैंक यू वेरी मच।